Hi there, welcome to another session of chess puzzle solving. This is Bharat Divyang from Zugzwang Academy. And today's puzzle is actually something you would have seen if you had seen the daily puzzle on chess.com. Today's daily puzzle on chess.com is what we're trying to solve. So take in the position. This is the position, this is exactly what is set up. You have black with two rooks and two bishops, white with just a queen and a pawn. You have a bunch of pawns, a queen and a knight, a bunch of pawns for white, just three pawns, and about six pawns for black. So practically, it is black has the slight advantage materially, but however, if you pay a little bit of attention, you'll realize that this is a made up puzzle. This is a study. This is a position which is highly unlikely that it's part of a game. This has been made up. So now you need to find out what's the solution. How does white finish the game? What is the best move for white? Take your time, think about it. And what is so amazing about this puzzle, and that's the reason I've named it the crazy puzzle, is because all your intuitive moves would typically fail. Every single intuitive move that just makes sense, right? It's going to fail. So what I did was I shared this puzzle with a bunch of my kids who tried to solve this, and they were like all these intuitive moves which typically kept failing. And I'm going to discuss that. And I hope that you too will see these intuitive moves and hope that you realize that none of the intuitive moves actually work. So take your time, arrange this position, set it up on a board, and actually think through it and realize it's not as simple as it looks. Take your time, go through the productive struggle, and see if you can solve it. All right, welcome back. I hope you were able to spend some good time with this puzzle because it's a wonderful puzzle to actually do that. And then to analyze this position. Okay, let's begin. This is a square around the king that's controlled. These two are already blocked. This is a square which he could capture, but thanks to the king, the knight is actually a VIP. Can't come here thanks to the knight. I mean, the pawn here can't come here, here, or here thanks to the queen. So, in other words, the king is completely trapped. He's surrounded all over, and all you need to do is give a check. So, that one check is all that leads to a checkmate. The question is, how do you go about giving that check? So, what are the options? The options are many. So, one option is with a knight. You could say, okay, let me give a check with this particular knight, but it fails for two reasons because it's not a zugzwang move. The knight can get captured, the queen captures this, and eventually you don't have any specific checkmate here. The other option is king can come here. Any kind of discovered attack just leads the king to go further away, and I'm not sure you'll find a checkmate here either. Another intuitive moves with a lot of beginners was, hey, I'm going to go give this check, and you know what? King can't move anywhere, checkmate. The problem is pawn can capture the knight, and therefore that doesn't work either. You could say, okay, maybe I could give a check from here, so I could move my queen here, threatening this particular move. This too doesn't work because all you have to do is block it with the rook, and there's no check after this. There's no checkmate either. And you could say, okay, if that's the case, let me actually bring my queen here. So if he blocks it, I can still do a checkmate. But unfortunately, that doesn't work either because the moment you move your queen here and try to do a checkmate, he can block it with his bishop. And you could say, okay, in that case, I could do a checkmate here. True. So what is the way out? What is the way out for this particular checkmate? I would just move my king away and I don't have a checkmate after. So as you can see, all the intuitive moves typically keep failing. You say, okay, let me just give a check. Instead of doing any of this, let me give a check here. But the moment the king moves away, there's no checkmate after this. So the puzzle is crazy because you have to realize that the only way you can give a check is with this knight, which doesn't work out. the way you can give a check with the queen is the 7 moves here, the 3 moves here, and the 4 moves here, which means 7 moves. But the queen can move too. The king typically can't move because you'll end up losing the knight. The pawn move doesn't really show you anything. So it has to be one of these 14 moves. 7 horizontal and 7 vertical. And many of this can be eliminated. For instance, you can eliminate this because the bishop will kill it. You can eliminate this because the pawn will kill it. You can eliminate this because the rook will kill it, this because the bishop, this because of the other bishop. So this because of the pawn. So you can eliminate a lot of them, and you realize that what is left over has to be the answer. And when you realize what happens with the most unintuitive move, which is this, you see that maybe that's the answer. What's the reason for it? The reason is that only when you make this move, you realize that the black pieces are in Zugzwang. They can't move anywhere. The king can't move anywhere. None of the pawns can move anywhere. It has to be somebody moving. So let's say the bishop moves. And he does move here. In that case, you have a check. Okay, you say, okay, I don't want to move it here. Let me move this. Where to? If I move it here, then I capture the bishop for the checkmate. Say, okay, I don't want to capture it. I'm going to come here. In which case, you realize that the rook attack on this particular square is gone, so the queen can checkmate. And if you block it here, then the queen can check. Therefore, the bishop can't move anywhere. Now, let's say, take the other bishop. Let's say I move this. What is the checkmate here? And the answer is, it is queen a1 checkmate. And you say, okay, I don't want to move all the way here. Let me come here. In that case, it's still the same checkmate. And you'd say, okay, let me move it here. In which case, it's this checkmate. And let's say you say, okay, I don't want to move the bishop any of these squares. Let me move it here. What's the checkmate here? What is it that you can actually give as a checkmate here? Take a moment, think about it. What is the possible checkmate at this particular position? This is where, if you were to move the bishop away, remember the bishop was controlling this entire square in this entire diagonal. So what is that checkmate that can be given? And the answer is queen takes pawn is checkmate. And therefore the bishop can't move any of these squares. So if he moves here or he moves here, means that this pawn is no longer supported. That's checkmate. And therefore, after the queen moves here, there's nothing to be done. You can imagine, okay, let the rooks move in. So if you move it here, then the queen takes rook checkmate. And if you move it here, then he's blocking this square, so knight checkmate. And if he blocks this one, then queen takes pawn checkmate. And therefore the rook can't move. Let's say this rook. If he moves here, then it's the same checkmate because the bishop's path is controlled. And if he moves here, then it's rook takes. Queen takes pawn checkmate because this bishop's path is blocked. So in essence, no matter what he does, and even if he brings it here, it's checkmate. So as you can see, there's so many possible checkmates that can happen for every single move of it. And that's the reason I told you, this is a made up puzzle. This is a study. This is a puzzle that's set up by somebody with a lot of imagination to actually create this position and say, all right, guys, can you find out the waiting move? Because it's the unintuitive waiting move of queen a5 that prevents this pawn push that leads to a checkmate. I hope you found something interesting and insightful from this crazy puzzle. If so, please do like, share, and comment, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.